I would like to begin by painting a picture of how I grew up. The battery is dead. What? Again? Yeah, Dad says we go push the car. Ah, yeah. Push! I'm pushing! Push harder! I'm pushing! Push! I'm pushing! Push! Okay, run. Yes! You know, that feeling when the car now starts. This was how I grew up. Every day there was car trouble. We lived in South Sea, so there was water trouble. Well, we lived in a nice neighborhood. It was rather decent, you know, next to the city's manufacturing zone. That's what you say when you live close to Inda. So we washed the dog on weekends. That was Sunday duty. And the coolest thing I remember being told to do as Daddy's 4-girl on the ground was, okay, go park the canter. And I was like, yes, you know, you have to sit like this. And so if you show up to take me on a date, you come in a raggedy old pickup, you might meet an elegant lady who might be very warmed in her heart that you did that. So that was a little bit how I grew up. I went to a Christian-oriented primary school. And for about 8 years, my siblings and I were the only Indian kids in the school. And we had to work hard and get good grades, and I had to go where all the girls from my school went, which was Kianda, Precious Blood, or Alliance. And unfortunate for my parents, I could only get St. George's Girls High School, which was on Dennis Pritt Road. And when my mom was like, okay, let's go try, she got out of the pickup. I sat in the car and I said, no way. Because I'd heard horror stories about going to boarding schools. So I chose to forego that and go to a public high school in South B, where I could walk to South Sea, and I could people watch, car gaze, and eat chips on the way home to land there and just watch TV. So, not that I didn't like to study, I was good at Kiswahili, unlike other Indian children who were good at mathematics and physics. So that was just traumatic for my dad when I dropped physics and opted for art and biology. Okay, that was not an option, but... So I tried to do my best, and I finished high school. And then it was a year to go to university, and my parents were like, okay, we don't understand this whole year thing, and I also didn't understand it, so they're like, okay, go do A-levels. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did several interviews with several schools, and that was because I kept failing along the line. And it's hard when you come from 844 to, you know, IGCSE, OCR, GCE, London. I mean, you're like, what is going on? So I even got turned down by Visa Oshwal. And I was like, are they allowed to do that? Is that even legal? I mean, do they know who I am? So I'm like, no, doesn't help. So finally, I went to University of Nairobi. That was after the kids in high school were like, I'm going to Adelaide, McGill, Warwick. And they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, UN. So, where's that? And I was like, University of Nairobi. And they're like, oh. So that was, I went to University of Nairobi, and I enjoyed my degree. I did Bachelor's of Dental Surgery. And after that, I pursued a career in forensics, and specifically forensic odontology, which is the examination or the evaluation of dental evidence in the interest of justice. So it was during my uni years and my formative years of working and doing my master's that I actually began to realize that my life was a reality of a series of questions. Like, you sound so Kenyan. And I was like, okay, as opposed to what? I mean, I was born here, so, you're waiting for like Kewiwi or, and other questions were like, does a real doctor follow her love of the arts through fashion, modeling, photography? I mean, you recite poetry. Are you serious? You do mosaics? Why does a Sikh become a Christian? I mean, how does an Indian, a girl, live away from her parents? I mean, you're a firstborn Indian, right? How does that work? Why is an Indian working for the government? It's true. And on the other side, they'd be like, kwani nyinyi wa India hamujatosheka na pesa ya private sector munakuja gava? You almost feel like telling the guy, tujatosheka. So there were questions like that. And one of those other questions, I think that was really hard for me was, no other dentist has ever done forensic odontology. Why are you the first, So it was through a lot of ridicule somehow that, that I was doing this. So I think that gave me the motivation to just keep going. And so my first mass fatality forensic human identification case was the fire that gutted Nakumatt downtown. And I was young. I knew the basic principles of managing a mass fatality. And my senior colleague, who we call boss, said, these days I go with senior colleague. Like, boss is rather overrated. So he said, I have faith in you, Daktari. Manage it. Do it. And what I had to do was coordinate the whole mass fatality and make sure that all the human remains that were retrieved from the Nakumatt downtown site actually were examined, and the verification of the identity of those human remains was done, and that the families were given their corresponding remains. And that was the first time we had handled a mass fatality, or rather what we call a disaster victim identification process, in a scientific way. And since then, there has been Sachangwan, there has been Sinai, the pipeline disaster, there was Westgate, and it's after that that I took a sabbatical from my work because I had taught other people what I knew, but I wasn't growing, I wasn't learning. And so an opportunity came for me to join the International Committee of the Red Cross. And they wanted me to work in the Middle East. And, I would walk home and tell my mother, they said, Iraq. And my mom is like, no, Iraq. Then I walk there and say, Iran. They're like, no. And anyway, I ended up working in a lot of these countries. I met great scientists. I met both seasoned and unseasoned diplomats. I met politicians. And I met very revered military generals. And, I would walk down the streets of places like Beirut and wonder, am I in the Middle East? Is this for real, Because downtown Beirut is like, girls wearing shorts like this short, And there were interesting places like Yemen, where, you're in the old city and it's so beautiful, it's very ancient. But Al-Qaeda is there everywhere, and everybody's got an AK-47. Jambia, which is a curved knife, is a status symbol, just like the way you go to Java, flip open your Mac, and you'll be like, hey, status symbol. So... for them it's the Jambia, the AK-47, and some Mira in the mouth, which, it's called cat. Someone is smiling at you like, oh, you are beautiful. And you are like, no. So my work taught me about science, how my science, the science that I had learned, was interwoven with this world of diplomacy, because death in itself is very emotive. Death is emotive on an individual level. It is emotive on a communal level. It is emotive on a national level. And it is an emotive issue even on an international scale. And whether these dead are civilian or they are military, death brings the same kind of feeling to everybody who is affected by it. So in my own personal reflections, of course I came back home, and now when I'm at work with my colleagues, I look on the table and we see human remains. And the day you have a fresh body, when it's fresh, not fragmented or incinerated or decomposed or skeletonized, you ask yourself, because when the body is fresh, the person seems more human. I wonder where you are now. I wonder if you can feel. I wonder if you can hear. Can you see us? Can you see what's going on? Did you make it to that place of sweetness called heaven? In Punjabi, we have a word for heaven. It's called Sachkhand. Such, sweet. Such is a lot, the intensity of it. That place of sweetness called heaven, did you make it? Or did you go to that place of eternal damnation that we don't like to talk about, called hell? It's hard when I get to interact with the emotions of others, their families. You see the faces who loved these people. Now you have to deal with that. You see the resignation of loss in their eyes, and you have to feel like as if, okay, try to empathize with this. And you see a mother coming to meet and greet her dead child. The last time she saw her child, the child was alive. And it's hard to suppress that rising tide of tears, to want to reach out. It's difficult to look at the expanse of the morgue and see a dead baby, let alone examine it. Because for me, this is what wells up inside and say, this is not the natural order of things. And I do find it difficult. And I understand why others who also work have coping mechanisms for this. My job has brought me in touch with a reality that I have to deal with. The reality of death, time, and life. That death is inevitable. We all have an appointment with death. I may not want to end up as a bone sample on a table under a forensic examination. But death is an inevitable appointment that I have. And that I also have time. And time is getting away from me. Time is getting away from you. It's getting away like a runaway slave. Time is going. My job has given me that revelation of life, that I have to live my life. I have to live it to the full. I have to be satisfied with it. I have to do the things that I want to do with my life. And that's why I have a problem when people say, do one thing. Be good at one thing. A rolling stone doesn't gather any moss. I have a problem with that. Because I think that you should do whatever you want to do. I think your life is an opportunity to do the things that you want, to go the places that you want to go to. So, I'd encourage you. I have to see death every day. But I want to tell you, you may not see death every day at the level at which I see it. But at whatever level you see it, I hope that you may learn to appreciate that death is coming, that time is getting away, and that you have to live life. Now I just think about, I want to live life. I want to love people. I look at people and everybody's a miracle. That's why I have a problem with racism. Each person is a miracle. You are not a bone sample. You are not a lifeless body. You inside there, inside this container, you are a miracle. You are important. You have a purpose. I have a purpose. And we should know that, embrace that. For me, my predetermined, non-negotiable with life is, I want to know the purpose for which I was created. And I want to accomplish the purpose for which I was created. And that I want to live my life at the fullest that it can be with the time that I have. You know, one thing occurred to me is that Safaricom, whichever other company you would like to name or call, they're always strategizing and innovating. So how can our life just be about making money, going to Java? Okay, I don't have a problem with Java. But how can it just be about grab your cup of coffee, have a Mac laptop, have a nice car? I mean, no. I mean, for me, I'm like, if that is it, we are living at the lowest threshold possible of life. You know, there has to be something more to this. And these companies are innovating, they're strategizing, they're just sitting their brains around the table and they'll be like, wow, what do we do next? Imagine if Safaricom sat down and said, people are calling each other, great. They're SMSing, fantastic. Now let's retire on calls and SMSs. They're like M-Pesa, M-Shwari, M-Kopa, M-Benki. I'm like M-Branchi. I'm like, I can't keep up with these people. I'm like, they're innovating. Have you ever sat down and thought about your life? What do I want to do? I mean, I've been to 36 countries and flown almost close to 400 times, and I want to go to Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. That's where I want to go. Yeah. And I'm like, getting on a plane should be like getting on a matatu. You know? I'm just like, innovate, strategize. What you need to do. I used to be asked, for many times, many people would ask me, do you define success? Or you read these articles and they'll be like, how do you define success? They're like, oh. Okay, I had a problem with that. Because I was like, okay, is it money? Is it popularity? What is it? Is it influence? What is success? And I realized that if I was created to stand in this very moment, talk to this very crowd, passing this very message. If that was what I was created to do at this time, and I have ticked that box, that means I am living in purpose. And that's why I'm looking forward now in my life. And I'm looking forward to this God whom I believe in, because I'm a Christian. I'm looking forward to the places where God is going to take me, the people He's going to lead me to, I'm looking forward to seeing them smile. I'm looking forward to knowing who they are. I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have with them. And that's how I define success. And that's the life I have chosen to be satisfied with. That's it.